This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
We promised you our number 2, and there he is, the man, the myth, the legend, Sports Illustrated's own Matt Verderame. How you feeling, my man? You feeling good?
Feeling good. How are you?
Good. Dolphins passed the first test this past week. They outlasted the Cowboys. It was actually cool because they kind of controlled the game for a while, and then Dallas stormed back to take the lead. And I kind of like that because then they had to kind of show, okay, well, you had the lead most of the time. Now you gave it up. What do you got to do? And then they ran the clock out. And, you know, I had a guy a little while ago stay on the chat board. Oh, you know, the Dolphins have got me on the edge of my seat. And I'm like, yo, dude, you have a Dolphins team that has one of the top running offenses, one of the top passing offenses, and it has one of the top defenses. I haven't said that since I was a child, and I was 7 and 8 years old watching Greasy and Zonka and Warfield and the defense and, you know, Jake Scott and the boys. You know, like it was a freaking hell of a team in those days. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, like, yo, dude, relax. You're in heaven right now for Dolphin fans. Chill out. You know what I mean? And to be 11-5 right now, after everything, and then to pass that first test, your thoughts on that so far?
Yeah, I mean, look, I thought it was a game where, you know, Miami had felt like a pretty good stretch of the game, maybe the middle portion of the game. I thought might have really pulled away and kind of blown them out, and they didn't. And it stayed close. And then, you know, look, the Cowboys really, I mean, didn't do a whole hell of a lot offensively. They put together one drive as the game went on. They got in the end zone. It was a great throw and catch with Prescott and Cooks. But I thought in the end, I mean, Dallas backed up, which is death against any good defense. And Miami was able to do what it had to do. It executed, got down the field. I thought the MVP of the game for Miami was Jason Sanders, who was lights out from downtown. But listen, that's the kind of a game you're going to have to play in the playoffs. I mean,
by the way, you know, he was like 1 of 7 from 50 yards the last 8 times.
Yes. It was incredible.
He had lost all our confidence because he was an ass kicker when he first, you know, his first year, you know, year and a half or whatever. But like the last year and a half or two, it's kind of been a real problem for him, especially from 50 yards on. So that performance, I don't know if it's, you know how it is with kickers. They find their groove or then they get off of it and you just have no idea sometimes.
Yeah, no, I thought he was MVP of the game for him. I mean, you know, like Tua was fine. I thought he played okay. He played fine. I thought, you know, Tyreek is Tyreek. I mean, he had 100 yards and it felt like he was like not even in the game half the time because he was coming off that ankle. But he
dropped it. He dropped the first play of the game, dude, right out of your end zone.
That was weird. That was like he did drop it, but it was almost like it handcuffed him. Like it was like it wasn't a bad throw. It was just I think it was just where the ball was. It kind of like it like went over his shoulder and it was weird. I don't know. I was shocked he dropped the ball.
It was KC all over again. He did that against your team.
Yeah, well, the difference on that play is
a couple of passes in that game, and Tua threw a beautiful bomb to Tyreek that he dropped in that. Tyreek lost that game. He dropped that ball, which was points. And then he had the fumble for the touchdown against KC. He single-handedly lost the game against KC. And in that game, he had the 99 yards, but to open up the game, McDaniel calls 2 bombs, dude. And he hits Tyreek on the first one, he drops it, and then he hits Waddle on the 50-yarder, and he catches it. I mean, that is ballsy to open up the game. Remember, you know, Tua only throws for 2 yards at a time. That's what everybody says. And he opens up the game with 2 beautiful bombs right on the money, dude. That's pretty good.
I thought overall, and they were both the hell on a Waddle. They were great throws. If you're the Dolphins, it's kind of performance you've wanted to see all year against a good team. They found a way to win a game in which, you know, look, I mean, first of all, I thought the first drive of the game ended up being the most important drive of the game. Dallas gets to the 1-yard line, and I think 2 things can be true at once. Elliott makes a great play. On the other hand, I don't know why Tony Pollard didn't just run to the corner. I don't know why. He like cut back inside and it allowed Elliott to make what was a phenomenal tackle. And then the Cowboys are the Cowboys. And you have this big quarterback and they're like, just fall forward, man. Just fall into the end zone. And they hand off to their up back. It fumbles. And you know what I thought was interesting on that play? I thought the reason that play was so mangled, Dallas got out of the huddle with like 5 seconds left on the play clock. And they were scrambling to get to the line. They weren't ready. And to me, that's the difference between a team that's well coached and not a lot of the times. Miami didn't make some of the mistakes in that game that Dallas made. And that sounds like, oh, well, it's not giving credit. No, I think that is credit. Like, you're the team that didn't make the big mistake in the game. Dallas made a huge mistake early. Now, Miami got down to the goal line, what was it, second quarter? And I don't know, they just kick a field goal, man. They just kick it. But they got away with it. They overcame it. And in the end, it's a nice win.
And that's our coach, bro. He'll do that shit again.
He will, and he shouldn't. He shouldn't.
And
he will.
I know he's going to pay the price for that because it's just. I was just.
In the playoff,
you have back-to-back injuries, and it's like there's a sign like everything's going wrong, bro. Just take the points, dude. Yeah. Just take the damn points. And
I know. I couldn't. I was like. I knew he wasn't. There was a part of me that was like, I'm not surprised, but I also was like, what is he doing? And luckily it didn't hurt him, right? I mean, in the end, they ended up being able to overcome it. But look, I mean, the bottom line is they win. Now they got to go to Baltimore and play a game that's essentially for the one, or well, possibly for the 1 seed. Obviously, there's still a tough game. You know, look, if you're Miami, you win that game, you win the division, and then week 18 becomes. Again, truthfully, if you really play it out, what probably would happen is if Miami wins that game, Buffalo, you would think is going to win this week against New England. Although they almost lost to Easton Stick, so let's not rule anything out. But I would think
the Ravens winning this week forces Miami to have to play to win because if they lose, then it'll be the Ravens' 13th win, and Miami will stay 12. So the way it rolls.
You're right. But what would happen, though, is let's say Miami wins and Buffalo beats New England. Okay, so Buffalo then clinches a playoff spot during the playoffs. They need a little bit of help, but like there's like 800 scenarios if they win, they're in the playoffs. So if they clinch a playoff spot next week and Miami wins and clinches a division, Buffalo's not going to play hard. They're going to rest everybody.
Yes.
There's no reason for them to play. So. And in that scenario, assuming Kansas City doesn't lose out because they can't win a game, they would then host the Bills in the wild card round, which would be just one hell of a wild card game. But Miami's got a real big shot here. If they can beat Baltimore, they're probably going to be the one. I mean, Buffalo's not going to have to play in all likelihood. So it's very interesting to see how Miami does going to Baltimore, playing a Ravens team that, I got to be fair, they beat the crap out of San Francisco. I really thought, like, okay, it'll be a good game. I thought the Niners would win.
San Fran could not have played a more dumber game. I mean, they did everything possible to lose that game, dude.
They did. I agree.
Yeah. Jesus Christ, man. That was like.
It's a year where, I was just saying to somebody else, like, it's a year where you look at the NFL and go, okay, San Francisco's the odds-on favorite, right? Everybody's on board. Then Christmas happens. They get killed. So everybody's like, oh, it's Baltimore. And then, like, Miami, would you be surprised? No, they could beat them. So then if Miami wins, it's like, well, is Miami the team? And then if Miami lost to Buffalo, it's like, well, then Buffalo's. It's just one of those years where you got about 8 or 5 teams. Yeah, right, 6 to 18. You just they could win it. Like, it's just who's going to get hot in the playoffs, who's going to get the right break. I mean, I think in the AFC, it's probably Baltimore, Miami, Buffalo. I don't even know you put Kansas City in there, but I guess you kind of have to because they're Kansas City. But I don't know, man. They can't score.
I got to tell you, I'm not putting your team anymore in it.
I don't blame you. I mean, it's
the incompetence around Mahomes.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
That's why I tweeted out, so you morons that were killing Tua for 2 years. And I kept, for 2 years, I was the only idiot in town going, yo, it's not Tua. It's all the idiots around him. He has no coach. He has no offensive coordinator. He has no game planning. There is no play design, nothing. Now you have McDaniel, and it's a completely different ballgame. I saw Mahomes get to the Super Bowl and get his ass handed to him because he didn't have a goddamn line. And now I'm watching, and this fucking team is a disaster, dude.
They're not good.
Disaster. They're not good. And the same shit they did a couple of years ago when they go, we got to fix this line. I guarantee you they are going to put a bomb into that offense, and they're going to blow that shit up.
Yep.
And they're going to have Kelsey and Rice come back, and they're going to fix the rest of that shit. I guarantee you that. They can't keep doing this, dude. The guy's going to get killed.
They're not. What they're going to do is they're going to go out and probably sign one of like T. Higgins or Mike Evans, and then they'll draft a receiver in the first round, because this has gotten to a point where they can't function. I mean, watching that game on Christmas, they can't function. They can't even line up. It is embarrassing. They cannot line. They've gotten worse as the year's gone on. I mean, they don't know where to line up.
You brought out the hope only because the fucking defense is awesome.
Well, the reason I say it is because it's a conference where there's nobody you look at and go, that team's just infallible. And it's a team where you go, the defense might hold anybody they play to 14 points because they're that good. And then offensively, you have Mahomes, and can Mahomes just drag their carcass for 17 points? I mean, that's basically what you're looking at. But the problem is
they have figured out the offense. They know how to take Kelsey out now, and not a lot. And then while Rice is good, he's not that good, and that's why you mentioned T. Higgins, because Rice is probably a 2 or a 3 right now. They need to go get a 1 because obviously they have figured out this offense. And then, Jesus Christ, the poor kid, he gets his ass handed to him on a hit with the helmet. And then he goes to the damn table, and the table folds on the poor kid. That's the other thing. The other weapon that you have that you got to take care of is Pacheco. And, and by the way, it's not a good thing that Mahomes now has to carry the ball a lot more now because now you're opening him up to take hits. And that's the only reason why I know we all look at Mahomes as Superman, because he is Superman. But now we get a little crazy, and you might be getting a little crazy, because now we start putting too much expectations on Mahomes. And now we literally want him to put on 2 fucking capes. And really, what's going on, really, there's nobody good enough to, unless you can get like Cam Newton with Mahomes accuracy.
Right.
Then okay, maybe you might be able to save the day.
I think you're right. I mean, I think what it's going to take for them, I think they can win a playoff game. I think they win 1 game. They just play well and they execute. But I was saying to somebody actually yesterday, I actually think the best thing for them in an odd way is if they play Buffalo in the wild card round, because they will actually focus for that football game. Their problems, they can't focus. They're out to lunch. Now, they could lose to Buffalo. Don't get me wrong. I'd probably pick Buffalo, but I think that would be the best thing. Like, if they play the Browns, they won't respect them. They just won't. They won't prepare. They'll be out to lunch, and they'll lose to them. Like, I think you to a point with the Chiefs, Mahomes will prepare. The rest of that offense, including Travis Kelce this year, has been a persona non grata situation. I mean, it's been Kelce was always accountable. Kelce doesn't even speak to the media anymore. It doesn't show up after games. I mean, he is complete. The only time you ever hear from Kelce is on his podcast. That's it.
He's becoming more of a human, not a
football.
What's funny?
I was talking to my dad last night.
Life. He's doing something he's never had before. He's actually getting like a real life off the field, and there might be. He's accomplished so much on the field.
Yep.
This part of his world might be motivating him more to, this is maybe, I can be an analyst, I can do commercials, I can travel with Taylor, and I don't have to deal with this bullshit anymore. So you almost feel like he's getting human,
Yeah, I think it's a great way of putting it. I said to my dad the other day, I said, you know what? I said, I think, he's 34 and he hurts all the time. Like, I think he looks at it, and I'm guessing, but I mean, hey,
zero to prove.
Right. You've won 2 Super Bowls. You've gone to 3. I mean, if you're not the greatest tight end of all time, you're in that pantheon. I mean, you're right there. Like, look, I mean, maybe he's in a relationship that is something that he's really excited about. And it's funny, like you get these fans.
It seems like it, dude.
And you get these Chiefs fans who are like, well, it's on Taylor Swift. I'm like, does she drop the ball? Because I got to tell you, like, maybe you should make her a receiver because maybe she could catch the football. I mean, if nothing else, you run a route better than some of these guys. I just think you're right. I think in a lot of ways, like, maybe he's looking at the sun setting a little bit now.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
that's reality. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's reality.
He's a human being. He knows he's a Hall of Famer. Now he's enjoying life, and he's like, oh, maybe I should, you know what? I've accomplished everything. What am I going to beat up my body more and more? No, dude, I want to have a normal life when I'm done with this. I just think, the dude fell in love, bro. That's it. The dude fell in love. That happens.
I also think, and I can't prove this, I think he's been hurt all year long. I know when he got hurt before week 1, they thought he might have been out for the year. And then he played, and like the early part of the year, he really couldn't run, but he played anyway. And then he got hurt again in Minnesota, and he played through it. And there are times when he'll have that burst, but then there are other times he doesn't, which is why Rashee Rice now has come to the forefront, because whenever they need any kind of explosion, they use that kid because he's like a rocket booster strapped to his rear end, so he can get up the field. Mm-hmm. The problem is if you're a defense that can take anything away from those two guys, there's just nothing else. I mean, they just can't function. They can't throw the ball. There was a play on Christmas where Mahomes got pick sixed, and it was a horrible throw. It was completely on Mahomes. But if you watch that play, Justin Watson's supposed to run a comeback route, and he turns at the top of the route, and instead of coming back to the ball as you're taught when you're in JV football, he just stands there. Like, he literally doesn't even take he just stands there, and then Jack Jones jumps the route. And if you watch Watson, he jumps backwards to get out of the guy's way. I mean, it's just that encapsulates everything it's been. It's Mahomes forcing the ball because he's fed up. It's the receivers can't play outside of Rice and Kelsey. It is a tackle in Jawan Taylor, who earlier in the year was a penalty machine but was blocking. Now is a penalty machine and can't block anybody. I mean, there's a real chance they cut him and eat $24 million next year. Like, they are to a point. I really think they might. Like, they're really to a point. Yes, it's going to be like when they lost that Super Bowl and they they took that entire offensive line, threw it in the garbage. And they brought in 5 new linemen.
This is worse than that year. This is worse, and that's why I'm saying that we're at a point now where we're in danger territory, because because Mahomes has been Superman. Now you're going to ask him for the impossible, and when he doesn't do it, you're going to blame him. And if you really look at the big picture, I'm going to be consistent, bro. It just ain't. It ain't there. By the way, let me ask you something. Are they missing the guy that, maybe was enough of a dick to get him in line, and Eric Bieniemy?
Immensely.
Okay.
Immensely.
It's funny that the guy couldn't get a job, now gets a job, and then they miss him in his old job, actually. I was wondering, because from what I'm told, he's the guy that cracks the whip. So is there nobody cracking the whip now? Is that kind of what it is?
Mahomes is the one left to do it, because when you watch them, nobody has any emotion. Nobody seems to really care outside of Mahomes. I mean, Kelsey gets mad and he'll throw his helmet, but like, Kelsey doesn't exhort his teammates like he did years ago. He just doesn't. He stands there. I think deep down with Travis Kelce, I also think part of it, to be fair, I just think he knows, like, we're just not good enough. Like, he's just frustrated because he just knows, like, no matter what I do, we can't run a route, we can't catch a pass. But Matt Nagy just stands there and has no expression whatsoever. There's no anger, there's no fire. It's just a whole lot of like, we dropped another pass today. That makes 9. Okay, great. And then they move on, and Andy sits there and looks at his big menu of a play sheet and doesn't get mad. And just after the games, it's the same thing every week. Well, we'll fix it. We'll be fine. We're not going to fix it. You're 16 weeks into the year. I think, there's a real world here with the enemy. Look, they're all getting fired in Washington at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Remember,
this is why I mentioned it to you, because 2 months back, when there were like rumblings in Washington, like, oh, this guy's such a hard ass, Tyreek came out and said, yeah, that's right. Yeah, he's a hard ass. He's going to challenge you. That's what I love about Coach B. He'll get after you, he'll get in your face. Yep. And Tyreek doesn't mind that shit. But obviously there were, when you haven't accomplished anything,
Yes.
easy to rattle your cage, and that was going
Yeah.
on in Washington. Then things settled down and got better there with him. So that's why I ask you, is he missed?
I wonder if they fire him after week 18, if you all expect them to do, if the Chiefs hire him as a consultant for the playoffs. I mean, I really wonder at this point if the Chiefs would be like, you know what, Eric, we'll pay you pretty much like a head coach come back. Like, what is it going to take? Because look, one thing about Eric Bieniemy, I watched him do it for years up close. Like, there are coaches who yell and scream, but they pick the guys that they'll yell and scream at, and they're guys who are at the bottom of the roster, and players know, like, yeah, man, you're going to yell at that guy because you can't yell back at you. There are no sacred cows at Eric Bieniemy. He'd scream at Tyreek. He'd scream at Kelsey. He'd scream at Mahomes. He'd do it in public. He'd get right in their face on the sideline. Like, he didn't care. And there was a level of accountability with them that is nowhere to be found in Kansas City right now. There's no accountability. They make mistakes. I mean, think about a couple weeks ago, they lost the game against Buffalo because Kadarius Toney doesn't know how to line up on a football field.
Yeah,
and on Christmas, the second drive of the game, 3rd and 9, MVS lines up offside. He then proceeded to lead the team in snaps at the receiver position, and he had 0 catches. There's no accountability. Nothing changes. They all just do the same thing over and over. Yeah, I think they miss Bieniemy more than they would ever admit, maybe even more than they knew. But, I would not be shocked if he gets fired, if he gets a phone call from Kansas City saying, hey, man, what do you need? Because we need you. It's possible.
Yeah, Tony, he won't learn, bro.
No, he will not. I agree. He won't.
I couldn't have been more wrong about that kid. He has so much talent, but this won't stop him every time from ever accomplishing what he could accomplish in the NFL. He just will not get it. You know, it's funny because because of Kadarius Toney, I tend to start looking at receivers. And dude, Tyreek on every down will look at the referee. Am I good? Am I good? And, you know,
of course.
And it's like, dude, that's your responsibility. You know what I mean? And if you're going to line up so all the way inside and the referee's way out on the sideline, you're not going to hear him anyway. So you better make eye contact and make sure and all that. But if you don't even check or whatever, you have no awareness. That's the word for Kadarius Toney in life.
Well, it's
zero awareness of anything in life, bro.
It's amazing. Look, I think a lot of guys in the NFL, they get to the NFL because they won the genetic lottery, and they combine that with they work really hard. You know, they prepare and they get themselves in great shape, and they work at their craft. And those guys go to the NFL because of that combination. Then there are guys who go to the NFL because, look, maybe they weren't athletically the best guy in the world, but they just worked themselves to death to get there.
Drew Van Ginkel.
Perfect example. Right. A guy like that. Hell, Zach Thomas, Zach Thomas was not an athletic, but just a ridiculous work ethic, right?
He was not Junior Seau. He was not Brooks. He was not any of the guys that are going to the Hall of Fame with him in the same freaking era.
Right.
Zach Thomas wasn't any of those guys.
You look at, I always think of a guy I grew up watching, Chris Spielman. Chris Spielman was just a maniac. I mean, he was just an unbelievable player. He was nuts. Then you get the great player who's the combination of all that stuff. Won the genetic lottery, but just works his ass off nonstop and cares. But then you get guys that get to the NFL, man, who it's like they got there on their athletic gifts pretty much alone. Like, hey, I never really studied the game. I never really polished up my route running, and I got to the NFL because I'm a freak show as an athlete, and I've got good enough hands. But when you get to that level, if you don't pay attention to detail, you're not going to be good. You're just not. You may stick around a little bit. It's kind of like the baseball pitcher who throws 100, but it's like, yeah, man, but you never developed a changeup and you walk everybody. And that's cool at AA because you're just going to rear back and blow up by the guy when you have to. But when you get to the
Mark Wohlers, you got to wait for 2 years throwing 100 miles an hour, and then they figure out there's no movement. You're out of here.
That's great. You can throw 100. That's cool, man. That's a great story. And then guess what? When you throw the ball to Mookie Betts and he knows it's going to be 100 down the pipe, that ball's a rocket ship 450 feet the other direction. Those guys are too good. And when you get to the NFL, you can have all this talent in the world. If you don't know the nuances of the position, that's the one thing the Dolphins fan can appreciate very much as a Chiefs fan. Tyreek Hill, it always used to ruffle my feathers when people be like, well, it's a speed thing. It's a speed. Yes, obviously he's incredibly fast. He's a phenomenal route runner. That's why he gets so much separation. It's because of the speed combined with the ability to cut in and out of breaks and make him. I mean, there are a lot of guys in the NFL who have been as fast as Tyreek Hill in a straight line, but not every guy can complete the picture with being able to get to the catch point in the air, being able to run routes. I mean,
the greatest receiver in the game ran a 4.6.
Yes. I mean,
because of his route running, he could slice you apart and he would have 5 yards separation from you at 4.6. Why? Because he knew how to set your ass up.
Yeah. I mean, that's people don't. It's like running backs. Always laughing. It's like, this guy runs a 4.3. Okay, great. That guy, to me, Marcus Allen's a perfect example of it. Like, it's patience and it's understanding how to set up blocks and moving through that. I mean, you got Larry Zonka probably wouldn't have ran a 4.9, but like Larry Zonka was going to run your ass over and he was going to make you miss in the hole. And that was it. Like, sometimes we overcomplicate. Well, what's this guy's 40 time? What's his shuttle time? Hey, look, man, do you know how to play the sport or do you not? I mean, Steve Largent probably ran a 5 flat. The guy's in the Hall of Fame. Like, didn't matter. He could run routes with great hands. You get himself open. Like, that stuff is way more important than how fast you can run the straight line. And Kadarius Toney, unfortunately for Kansas City, is the embodiment of that.
Yep, I'm with you there. We had a guy here named Preston Williams who was.
Oh my God, I remember Preston Williams. Yeah,
the Lord blessed him with all the gifts in the world except this. And
I had a scout tell me about him once when they were coming out for the draft. He said, I was talking about different receivers, and I asked him, who do you think the best receiver in the class is? And he said, Preston Williams, but he'll go undrafted because he just can't get it together. And I remember being like, you think undrafted? You think he's the best receiver in the class? He's like, yeah, man, because he's just can't get it together. Like, there's no way anybody's taking a chance on that kid. And he went undrafted.
Franchise talent.
He was unbelievable. I remember watching his tape and being like, oh my God, this guy, I think if I remember right, he went to Colorado and then he transferred to Tennessee or something. And his talent was insane, but he just couldn't do it.
Yeah, that's it. When you're a mental midget, that's what's going to end up happening. All right, what do you got going on in Sports Illustrated so folks can check you out?
Film studies out today. Quarterback rankings be out tomorrow. Tua's moving on up. We've got matchups to watch this week, as I do every Friday. Got my running column on Sunday.
By the way, I got to give Dak a little love. He played like a man down the stretch. He made some throws, took some hits.
He moved up too.
I know that the Dallas Cowboys lost.
Yes.
Because I know that this was the fraud bowl. And whoever lost takes the title and all that. At the end of the game, I kind of like, hey, bro, I'm not picking on Dak on this one. That dude played pretty well in this game, bro. I can't say, oh, my God, it was terrible. And you know what I mean? Oh, he choked in the moment. No, he stepped up pretty big time, bro. I got to give him a little love. You know what I'm saying?
He's also trying to overcome a team that, my God, I'll say one for Miami in that game. Dallas couldn't block him. I mean, the Dolphins were just in the backfield the entire game, and yet Dak did. He's moving up my rankings too. But Tua moved up. They'll be out tomorrow. People can check them out.
Okay, Sean, what was it that what were we supposed to bring up for Matt on the fan? What was it?
Yeah, the one that was going to take the football from the Raider as he's after.
Yeah. Did you see that?
I did. Well, yeah, this dope tried to grab the ball away from a kid. And so Jack Jones had to pull the ball back. Yeah, people like that are the worst. I am not for any kind of.
It wasn't a psych job by Jones. It was.
No, Jones went to hand the ball to the kid, and then some doofus, some grown man, tried to jump over the kid to grab the football because Jones talked about it. He talked about it after the game.
I misunderstood the whole thing. I thought he was going to knock it out.
No,
we don't want Raider football. By the way. That kid there and that parent, they're not raising a good kid there. You're not supposed to accept a football from a Raider fan.
That is true. It is true. It is true. You know what? See, if
Thomas comes up to me and I'm in the stands to hand me a football, I'm going to say, get the fuck out of here, bro. I don't want that shit.
It's like when guys do the Lambeau Leap at Green Bay and the fans let them do it. And you're like, what are you doing?
Right. Yeah.
Some doofus tried to knock the ball or
So
tried
that's
to take the ball away, and then Jones pulled it back. But I mean, like, what are you doing?
Did he end up giving it to the? Because I didn't see the. I only saw.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't think so, but I'm not 100%. But there's nothing worse than when you're at a baseball game and some grown man is like trampling 20 kids to get a foul ball. Bro, it's a foul ball. I mean, at what point are you like? There's an age cutoff, right? It's got to be maybe, I don't know, 16, where it's like, you know what? It's a foul ball, man. Like, who gives?
And by the way, grown men should not be taking their gloves to baseball.
No, my God, no, stop it. I mean, if you're in high school,
although I'll give the one grown man the break here. You're there with your kid. He's 6 or 7 or whatever.
Yeah, that's fine because you're catching for the kid.
Catch the ball for him. I get it. Now, if you're there with your buddies and you got a glove, bro, come on.
What are we doing? First of all, if you're a grown man, you can't catch the ball with your bare hands. Okay,
come on.
Then you shouldn't be involved anyway. Second, look, there's nothing worse when I go to training camp tour. Okay, and I do these tours and I go around 8, 9, 10 cities, and you see these little kids trying to get like an autograph from a player, and some guy who's my age has 4 full-size helmets, and they're like, "Joe, sign this, Joe." So it's like, what is wrong with you? Everybody knows what you're doing. Like every single person, like let the kid have that memory. You, this dope who's got to get 8 autographs, you can go sell them on eBay and make a it's like, they're the worst. Those people to me, prison. Put them in prison, life. They're the worst. They're the absolute worst. I hate those people. Every single one of them deserves capital punishment. They're the worst people in the world. Save the kids. Let them have a memory instead of Johnny, who's 48 years old and needs his 19th autograph from Jamar Chase.
It's a beautiful thing. Follow him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Catch his work there at Sports Illustrated. Matt, we'll catch up next week, my friend. Enjoy the football.
Hey, take care, guys.
Thank you, sir. There you go. Matt Verderame, another great segment as always.
This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.